Hi, welcome to Bonita's Kitchen and thank you for joining us. What I'm going to be making today is this tasty recipe called Rhubarb and Parsnip Biscuits. What a lovely combination those two things are together. The sourness of the rhubarb and the sweetness of the parsnip. These are tasty little biscuits, and of course Raymond have got himself just overtopped with them because he's having them for his breakfast, dinner and supper. So if you are interested in knowing what this recipe is about, stick around and let's get started. So first off, what we need to do, we need to cut and peel this parsnip into little cubes, and then when it's cooked, we need to chop it up or mash it into a small amount like this. It's about a half a cup. And then I'm going to be using frozen rhubarb here today, and we got to get this stewing. Of course, we're only using a half a cup. When I say stewing, it's going to look like that. It's just going to be the same as your jam, and we're going to be putting that together into a bowl and or into a saucepan and getting that cooked. And then we'll get working on this recipe. So just peel it, your vegetable peeler, give it a little rinse, and then cut it into cubes. I'm going to be putting it into a saucepan with half a teaspoonful of sea salt, and it's a full teaspoonful of sea salt, all in total. Oh my gosh, eh? What a play on words.
Yeah. Okay, I say that 5 times.
Well, what I'm going to say is we need a half a teaspoonful of sea salt for the recipe and a half a teaspoonful to boil the parsnip. Okay, Bonita, got it right now.
Yeah.
So we'll get that going, and then we'll put the rhubarb on in a separate saucepan, and then we can get started on the recipe. So we're just going to cube up these parsnip like this, and that'll make it quicker to boil. Now you've got to have this, the parsnip and the rhubarb at total room temperature or even cold in the fridge, because you want these biscuits to be nice and got a nice texture, not a moist texture. So we'll talk a bit about that. I'm going to pop in there half a teaspoonful of sea salt in the parsnip and the frozen rhubarb. You can get fresh, but I got to try to use up some of my frozen rhubarb that I got from last season. So I'm going to pop this in here to my saucepan. Half a cup of sugar, granulated sugar, and a quarter cup of water. And it was a quarter cup of granulated white sugar, or sugar of choice. I said a half cup, but quarter cup, and a quarter cup of water. Get this boiling and starting to stew, and again, this is what it's going to look like when it's stewed, and the parsnip is going to look like that and mashed. So I'm going to put this over on my stove top, and we'll get going on the recipe. So what we got here while we're waiting for our parsnip and our rhubarb, I got 1.5 cups of all-purpose white flour, and I got a quarter of a cup over to the side, so there's 1 3/4 cup all in total, but I'm only using 1.5 in the bowl, and that's sifted flour, and we're going to keep this here for dusting when we're ready to make our biscuits. This is a half a teaspoonful of cinnamon and 1/8 of a teaspoonful of nutmeg, so we'll put that in there, and 4 teaspoonfuls of baking powder, and that half a teaspoonful of sea salt or salt of choice. And we're just going to toss that around, and then we'll get to our rhubarb and our parsnip. So you can see that the rhubarb is starting to cook. You could leave it in there frozen, and you could put it in there fresh. It doesn't matter, because you're going to let it keep cooking until it starts to condense a little and just be, you know, stewed. You know, pretty much like a jam. And you see that your bubbles is stopped. And over here, you see the parsnip is cooking, and just till fork tender. Then you can mash it. So now we'll take it. What was that?
I'm glad that you, because right now with all the steam coming up, I'm getting steam bath.
Oh, you are? You're exfoliating.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll take it to our counter when it's ready. So when the parsnip is cooked, fork tender, just drain off the liquid from it. And you can keep the liquid if you want to use it for a soup. And then put it into a bowl, and then I just reach for my rhubarb stewed. You're going to take it and put it into a bottle or a bowl, whichever you want to put it into, and let it come to a total room temperature and even fridge temperature, because we want for it to be cold. Now let's get over mashing our parsnip. So now that was a really big parsnip I had there, so you may not need one as big as that. We only need half a cup for this recipe, but you may want to double it. So that was 1 tablespoonful of butter or margarine, and you'll put that in with your parsnip while you're mashing it, just to give that nice buttery texture to it. And then we're going to keep 2 tablespoonfuls there to add in with the recipe when we make those biscuits. So just mash it up until it's totally, everything is nice and mashed. Or if you don't want to mash it, you can blend it with your blender, and that way it won't be chunky, because we don't want any chunks. We just want it just nice and mashed.
If I said squat, everything is good and squat together. Is it?
That's a true Newfoundland and Labrador word for sure, yeah. Smashed, or yeah. That's all you need to do there. So now I'm just going to put it over into my bowl, because we won't be using this batch. We're going to be using the one I got there in front, because it's at room temperature and a little bit cooler. So now what we're going to be putting in there is our half a cup of mashed parsnip. Now we're going to go to making our beautiful biscuits. And a half a cup of rhubarb. Making the rhubarb stewed rhubarb for you, and the parsnip has got me thrown right off here. Now I'm forgetting how much you need to use. But a half a cup of each for the rhubarb and the parsnip, and 2 tablespoonfuls of butter, and then a 1/4 cup of evaporated cold milk. Pop it all in there together. So pretty much do those 2 the day before, the night before, or the morning of, when you're going to make those biscuits, because like I said, you want it total room temperature or colder. We want it probably in your fridge to keep cold. And 1 tablespoonful of butter, that would be for your parsnip when you mash it, and then you'd only take a half a cup off when you mash it then. So that's all you need to do, is just stir it. Now you could use a blender just to bring this a little more creamier, but just mix it all together until that butter is broke down and it's all combined. Now you notice that I'm only using a 1/4 cup of sugar in the 2 cups of frozen rhubarb, and you can use fresh. That's because we're only taking off that half a cup to use for the recipe, and so you're not getting much sugar in this because you've got the sweetness of your parsnip. So that's sifted all-purpose flour with the other ingredients in it, then blend it in with your wet ingredients. Toss in the rest, and like I was saying, leave a 1/4 cup of that all-purpose flour for blending this all together. I'm going to take the spoon out now because I'm going to use my clean hand, and I'm going to bring this together to get it in the stage where I could just knead it a little to form it into a ball. And then I'll put it out on my countertop. But mixing it just until it's all combined. And then I'll show you that. What a lovely smell. You got that cinnamon, nutmeg, and that stewed rhubarb. Now we've got a lot of viewers that talks about different rhubarb recipes, and we got some that say, I don't like rhubarb. Well, what is it not to like about rhubarb? Because it's the forgotten fruit, I always say, and it goes well in so many recipes that you don't have to fuss with. I have lots of them out there for you to see, from jams, cakes, pies, you name it. This is where you'll just dust it a little to bring it together. And when I say knead, just bring it in, pulling in the sides, and then just taking that little bit of sticky off of the dough. And then we're going to flatten it with my hands, and then we're going to cut it out. But if you don't want to use your hands, you could use a rolling pin. And that's it. So just form it into a ball like this. We're going to dust our counter again, or my little sleeve there. And now I'm going to show you how to roll it out. Now you could use your fingers and just press it down to spread it out, not to roll it out, or you could use your rolling pin. We need it to be 1/2 of an inch thick, and that way when you cut out your biscuits, they'll all be about the same size. And I got a cookie cutter here that's 2.5 inches in width. I'll get it, Raymond. Yeah, 2.5 inches in depth. Oh boy. Anyway, so, and then as you cut it like this, just put it over onto a cookie sheet lined with parchment paper, or you can just use grease or oil and put it onto there, and just keep cutting it out. And then when you get to the point where you can't cut no more and you got all these little pieces, then you're going to put that together again to flatten it, so you can continue making your rhubarb and parsnip biscuits. So good. So then when you see all these little pieces like this, you take it again, you put it into a ball, just so all of them is combined there together. Another dusting of flour, and then you're going to flatten that again so as we can continue making our biscuits. That's all you need to do there. And then the last piece, which will make 12, you're pretty much not going to be cutting this one with the cookie cutter. You're just going to form it by your hand like this, just to make that biscuit. And now I'll show you what to do next. So now next, what you're going to do with a fork, you're just going to make a couple of fork holes in the top. My mom would say this just lets your biscuit breathe, I guess. And well, it gives it a nice little look as well, I guess, on there. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to crack an egg, large egg. You won't need all of them, and you could use the egg white, or you could use all of the egg. And whisk that together with a tablespoonful of that evaporated milk. And this will just to glaze over, brush the top of your biscuits with. If you don't want to use egg, you can just use milk, or you could just use a little bit of butter or oil, just to give them a little glaze and help them brown off that little bit more. So now let me tell you how long you need to bake it for and on what temperature. So now what we're going to do, we're going to preheat our oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. And when it's ready, put these in there for anywhere from 20 to 25 minutes. And I'm going to say, depending on your oven, yours could be a little less, depending on the type of oven you're using. So when mine is baked, I'm going to show you what those look like. And I'm going to have one. I'm sure Raymond's going to have one.
Oh, I might have two.
Probably would.
Yeah.
Our rhubarb parsnip biscuits are baked. I'm going to show you what they look like and tell you what you compare them with. Now look at these tasty little biscuits. Just perfect. Of course, Raymond, he loves them. Now you can make them bigger than that if you want to cut them and have them. I'm going to cut this one. If you wanted to cut them and have them like as a breakfast biscuit, you can do that. And I'm going to show you that here today. But just look inside. And you can smell that hint of cinnamon. Not a lot, because again, we want this to be the rhubarb and the parsnip to be our featured ingredients. So now, over here to the side, the leftover egg that we had when we glazed over the top, I just popped it in the microwave there for 1.5 minutes, and I'm going to make, I'm going to be putting a part of this on that biscuit. And then over to the side, I got some slow cooked pasta put on there that we're going to have these with today. So you can have egg sandwich. I'm going to keep it on there now like that. And then again, serve it with your supper. Just put it there somehow. There you go. And that's all you need to do. That little biscuit don't want to stay there, right? There you go.
Okay.
And that's all you need to do there. But whichever way you serve them, you're going to love them. You're going to love these.
I had one yesterday morning, and it was fantastic. I had a slice of cheese and just a smidgen of ham, sliced ham.
Okay.
And put it there. Yeah, it was
Well, this is it. I mean, serve them with just a little bit of butter, some more rhubarb on there, or again on top of one of these. Now how cute is that? I mean, really, who don't want one of these right now? Yum. I know I do.
like I said in the beginning, I'll have two.
You know you're going to. I'm going to pour myself up a cup of tea because this is a cup of tea sort of meal, and I'm expecting my sister to drop by here in a few minutes, and she is going to love having one of these and a cup of tea as well. Now I'm going to have a taste. I just put more rhubarb over the top because to me, I'm a jam kind of girl anyway, and this here is just perfect for it. Just so tasty. The tartness of that jam I just put over there just bursts through, but I can taste the hint of the sweetness from the parsnip and the cinnamon, just a little. Oh my, 2 thumbs up. I can't wait for you to make them. I'm going to save one of those for my sister Raymond, and I'll give you the other one. How's that?
Yeah, and I'm going to jazz mine up, I think, like I did before, with a little smidgen of ham and probably sliced cheese.
You're not even going to see the biscuit by the time you're finished with it. You know?
It's one of those dress-up biscuits.
And that's
is what I
okay.
got it.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Any way you serve them. Just another sip of my tea, Raymond. Well, I hope you're excited to make these little biscuits. Rhubarb and parsnip biscuits. Just a nice little pairing there to use up your rhubarb and to get those root vegetables going. I love parsnip in my soups and stews, and today we got a pasta sauce going, a slow cooked pasta sauce to have a couple of these with. I'll share that link with you. We did a few years back or something. But the recipe for this one today, we'll post it in under this video in the description area. Plus, I'll also share it with you on our website, www.bonitaskitchen.com. And you know, you can also send me a message at bonitakitchen@gmail.com. If you can't find it there, I will send it to you. Visit us on our Facebook page. We'll also share other recipes we've done to date and up and coming recipes as well. We post there. So if you want to visit us at Bonita Kitchen, we would love to hear from you. We'd like to thank each and every one of you for stopping by here today, and leave us a message before you go telling us what you think of this recipe. We're not going to take any more of your time. We know it's precious. And on behalf of myself, Raymond, and our team here at Bonita's Kitchen, you have a wonderful day. And from our kitchen to yours. So good, of course. The next time you're visiting Newfoundland and Labrador, don't forget to visit the beautiful town of Harbour Grace and join us again on Bonita's Kitchen.
Join us by the sea, a journey in culinary, always an open door. Bonita's Kitchen.